Hey folks, I just found this package today. I thought it was kind of cool. It sort of hookifies forms for us. It's its own little separate thing. So because it's a package, we have to install it. So let me go ahead and I'll copy that address for that command. I'll paste it in. It'll go ahead and install that package for me. And once that's done, let me go back to the demonstration page. And they've given us a little example here. We have to pull in methods, much like we do for like use state or use effect. So I'm going to go ahead and copy their use form method, import here, just paste that in. And next they show us this example of the different methods that come built in that we can import in with use form. I'm just going to copy the ones they're providing. I'm going to paste that in right after my function define. The only thing I'm going to change is that I'm going to change the watch method to the reset method. And I only know that that exists because I've been looking at the documentation and I'm pretty sure I want to use it in the future. So I'm starting with this, register, handle submit, reset, and then error handling, form state errors. I'm defining an onSubmit method here where I'm passing in data and then I'm console logging the data. Well, where is the data coming from? That's a good question. We're going to have to edit our form a little bit to match the syntax required for React hook forms. So let's look at this syntax here. Here we're saying we're going to call handle submit, and the argument for handle submit is going to be onSubmit. That's a default setting thing that they've got going on here. I suppose we could call onSubmit something else here, but why not just stick with convention? So I'm going to add this form onSubmit equals, and then call handle submit with onSubmit as the argument. So it's time to change that. Let's see, handle submit and onSubmit as its argument. Next, in our input, we include this curly brace to define where we call the register function, and we pass in the name of the, I guess I should say the name of the property we're trying to update. So in the case of my form, I've got an input label, and it's going to the name and the description. And these are both also the names of the keys I have for each category. A category has a name and a description. So my label names, my input name, and my key names for my category instance, they're all name and then description. So everything's matching here. So that's important that those match. So I'm going to say register name on my input line. So let's go ahead and try that. Rather than have this onChange event, I'm going to go ahead and delete that whole thing. And I'm going to throw in curly braces where I'm saying ... register, and then the name of my key, which is name. I think that's all I need. Let me double check. Yeah, that looks right. And now I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Rather than have my onChange event down here, I want to open curly braces and I'm going to say ... register, and this is the description. Okay, that's looking good so far. It's also got an example of when we want to have these fields required. Well, I want my fields to always be required. So I'm going to go ahead and it's saying like register, and this could be like description. then we're going to have a comma, and then we're going to open a new curly brace and say required true. So let me go ahead and add this comma, curly brace required true to both of my inputs. And that goes right after the quote mark before the parens for the register function. Okay, so now I've got register name, comma, required true. Looking good. Since these are required, we can include this error tag here. Let me go ahead and just copy this error tag line, and I'm going to put it below my inputs. So in this case, this field is name. So let me say errors.name. And this field is description. So I'm going to say errors.description. And it's going to spit out a span that says this field is required. I'm going to go ahead and style it a little bit. I'm going to add a small tag around this field is required. And then after the small tag, after I close the small tag, before I close the span, I'm also going to add a BR tag. I'm going to do the same for this one. Small tag. Paste it on in here. And then also add a BR tag. Okay. And let me go ahead and remove this extra BR here and add it here instead. Now let's take a look here. I've now got my input tag. I still have type of text, ID of name, name equals name, and I'm registering that keyword name. And this input is type equals text, ID equals description, name equals description, and I'm registering its keyword as description because in my backend, the category also has the keys of name and description. And those are the keys that I'm trying to update through these inputs. Okay. I think that's all we need to get this working, except we now have to think about what's going to happen when we post. For now, though, when we submit, we're just going to be console logging this variable called data. So let's go ahead and see if we got that far working at least. So if I look at Bumblebee palette, and let me go ahead and refresh, I'm going to go ahead and create a new category and hit submit. And there we go. We see that data is actually now equal to an object with the key of name and the key of description with my value set to what I entered into my input boxes. And it did all of that automatically for us. So that's going to make posting pretty easy, I think. Let's go ahead and instead of saying on submit data and then console logging it, let's call post new category instead. And let's give it a parameter to take in the data. So now that I'm passing in the data and the data is itself an object with the parameters of name and description, when I go to reset my categories and include this new one in my state, all I got to say here is data, because it is itself the object I want to pass in. Let's see if this post is working now. If I go ahead and refresh this, let me go ahead and say pastel rainbow, submit. Well, there it is. But there is one last thing I want to do. I want this form to reset after it's been set. And that's where this reset function comes in at. After we've used our then and we set our categories, we can add another .then and just call that reset method that's coming from React Hooks form. Let me go ahead and save. Let's refresh the page. Oops. Let me go ahead and create pastel rainbow and submit it. Now our form has reset and this has refreshed. That's weird. Why does everything break as soon as I start a recording? I get it working and then I record and then it stops working. Oh, I'm goofy. I forgot. I also have to do it here in the body. Oh, goodness sake. Okay, let me go ahead and get rid of this object and make it data too. I swear, folks. There we go. Now we refresh. It persists because we actually sent that data back. Let's go ahead and test it again. Submit. It appears on the page. I refresh. It's still there. Let's go ahead and double check the database just to be sure. If I go ahead and take a look at our backend here for Project Bumblebee, and I open the database, refresh it, and press play on the categories. There's our 2 categories we just added. Lost the thread in the middle of it, but we got back on track. I hope you guys found this neat or useful. Notice we don't need to mess with state and stuff anymore. I can go ahead and delete these now. Let's show off that other functionality we've got. Notice we put in those error messages. If I try to submit it when the pages are blank, won't let us do it. It'll say, hey, this field is required. If I try to do it for one but not the other, it'll still give us the error message that the field is required. I just thought it was a neat way to control data. All right, hope you guys find that helpful.